I'm Jillian Zacks from the law firm of McAndrews, Mehalick, Connolly, Hulse, and Ryan, and I'm here today to present on ABLE accounts. I'm happy to be doing this presentation on ABLE accounts for the Disability Options Network. ABLE stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience Act, and it was passed by the U.S. Congress in December of 2014. It is modeled on state 529 or college savings plans. It is actually code section 529A of the Internal Revenue Code. That's where we get calling them 529A accounts and 529 accounts. And the act allows states to enact their own legislation to allow individuals with disabilities to fund an account not countable for purposes of supplemental security income, or SSI, or Medicaid eligibility. Those are both means-tested benefits. So we ask, it's a disabled individual who is considered a disabled individual who can open an ABLE account. If you're over 18, that's an individual who's unable to engage in substantial gainful activity by reason of any medically determined physical or mental impairment, which can be expected to result in death, or which has lasted or can be expected to last for a continuous period of not less than 12 months. If you're under 18, the standard is a medically determinable physical or mental impairment that results in marked and severe functional limitations. If you are not have that determination of SSI, which we'll discuss further, you can self-certify under the Act as disabled. So the ABLE accounts are not considered a resource for purposes of SSI and Medicaid. So what are supplemental security, income, and Medicaid? SSI is administered by the Social Security Administration. An individual who is disabled, as we stated in the last slide, would be considered for this benefit, and they must be unable to engage in substantial gainful activity. And substantial gainful activity is an economic test. So you can't have income in excess of $1,470 in 2023 for an individual who is a non-blind person with disabilities. So you must be disabled, you must not earn a certain amount of income, and your resources are limited to qualify for SSI. So what are those resources? You must not have in excess of $2,000. So an individual cannot have more than $2,000 in a bank account, or stocks, or internal cash value in a life insurance policy. All of these are considered resources, and it would put you over that $2,000 limit. Now, if you do qualify for SSI, you're going to get a monthly maximum benefit of $914 in 2023 for an individual and $1,371 for a couple. Now, over the years, those are adjusted for inflation at different times. Now, an individual may not be receiving the maximum. They could be receiving in-kind support and maintenance, and it could be determined that their benefit for SSI monthly would be less. Now, oftentimes it may be difficult if an individual is working to determine what that income is, because there are deductions for earned and unearned income. There's exclusions for certain types of income. So we do recommend that you consult with a professional that understands how to determine that income eligibility for substantial gainful employment. Medical assistance, or the healthcare benefit, Medicaid, is administered by the Department of Human Services. Now, if you're receiving SSI, you're automatically enrolled in Medicaid. And again, it's the same standard with the resource, income, and disability standard as SSI. There is another part of it, which would be medical assistance for workers with disability, or MAUD. So you can be earning more than that income, but still receive your medical assistance. And also individuals under 18 in Pennsylvania can receive medical assistance based on our loophole and that first definition of disability that we put on that first slide. Now, if you're opening an ABLE account, you must have been disabled prior to age 26. Now that is changing. In 2026, the new law allows an individual who is disabled before the age of 46 to open an ABLE account. Each individual who's opening an ABLE account, the beneficiary of the ABLE account, can only have one account. So if you yourself open an account, your grandparent, your aunt, your uncle cannot open another account for you. Each individual can only have one account. You can open an account in other states, but I highly recommend that my clients go to the Pennsylvania website to open the account here in Pennsylvania, because there are benefits to that. But I have seen clients work with their financial advisors to open accounts, with different types of avenues like American funds, and those are based in Virginia. So it's not state bound. And some states do not have their own ABLE programs like we do in Pennsylvania, and you can open it in other states. But just be aware that each individual can only have one account. Now, what can you contribute to your ABLE account? You can contribute up to, in 2023, $17,000 each year. That's the federal gift tax exclusion. So if you've listed your ABLE account as gifts for graduation and your parents are putting money in, overall, everyone can only put a total of $17,000 into your account. Now, if you are a disabled individual who is working, you can put some of your earnings into the account, and that is detailed further on the slide. You can also roll money over from your 529 college savings account into your ABLE. Again, that is still that same limit of the $17,000 in 2023 per year that you can roll over. So if you had parents or grandparents who were saving for you as a disabled individual in your 529 college fund, you can roll the money into the ABLE account. Now, how much can you put in addition to the $17,000 that you're putting in each year? How much cumulatively over time can you put in your ABLE account? Each state has a limit that they establish for a 529 account, college savings accounts, and that would be the same limit that you would have on the ABLE. But you need to be aware that if you go over $100,000, the ABLE account will be considered a resource for SSI. So when we talked about there are income and resource limitations of $2,000, but the ABLE account is not counted for that, if you do go over $100,000 in the ABLE account, it will be considered a resource for purposes of SSI, but not Medicaid. So you would not lose your Medicaid, but you may lose your monthly SSI payment. The other benefit of an ABLE account is that it is a deduction for Pennsylvania income tax, not for federal tax, income tax. But in Pennsylvania, if you have a Pennsylvania ABLE account and you're a resident of Pennsylvania, you can deduct it on the income tax return. So if you're like me and you're using TurboTax and you're filing, it will say, a little box will pop up, have you contributed to an ABLE account? And I'm able to say, yes, my daughter has an ABLE account. I put money in there and I'm able to deduct that on the Pennsylvania inheritance tax return. If you're using another state's ABLE, you are not able to deduct that on your Pennsylvania income tax. That just to be aware of that one exception. So why would an individual use an ABLE account? What are some good scenarios that an individual would want to use an ABLE account? Just like we stated, if you're working and you're starting to accumulate a little too much money in your bank account, so your bank account is going over $2,000, you can put that excess into your ABLE account so it's not considered a resource to you. If you had a settlement from a lawsuit or you inherited money from your grandparent and it was, under $17,000 for that year, you could put that amount into an ABLE account. A person who is over 65 and was disabled before age 26 and is applying for a different type of benefit, they could put any $17,000 in their ABLE account as well. It also allows an individual to have more autonomy and control. There's several different investment plans that you can pick in Pennsylvania. You can work on which ones you want to pick. You can get an account with a debit card and use that from your ABLE account. So it does give individuals more control over the money. And again, a settlement from a lawsuit, you can put that first 17,000 into an ABLE account, and then the rest can go into a self-funded special needs trust if you're receiving means tested benefits. So it might most likely is not the best avenue, because you can only put 17,000 this year into it if you were to receive, say, a settlement of $500,000 from a car accident or a medical malpractice case, and you are disabled. You could put the first amount in, but the rest, it's not a vehicle for that. You would want to look into self-funded special needs trusts. It's also, as I call it, one tool in the toolbox for family members who are saving for an individual with a disability. So you might open an ABLE account and start contributing up to that 100,000 during life, but then also create a third-party funded special needs trust to allow the individual to supplement what government benefits are providing and not supplant them. So you can have both of these. You can have a special needs trust and an ABLE account and use them both as a savings vehicle for individuals. So contributions to the ABLE account will grow tax-free, and they can distribute tax-free as long as they are for qualified disability expenses. And those are expenses related to the eligible beneficiary's blindness or disability and are made for specifically that individual. So it can include housing, transportation, employment training and support, assistive technology, personal support services, health, wellness, financial management, legal fees. If you're creating your own, power of attorney, you could pay for it out of your ABLE account, funeral and burial expenses, and then other expenses approved by the IRS. So again, as I stated, if you're using it for those qualified disability expenses, you would not be paying income tax. If you do withdraw it for something that is not a qualified disability expense, it's not only subject to income tax, but there could be a 10% penalty. So the Social Security Administration has what they call POMS, or Program Operations Manual System, and they say distributions from the ABLE account are not income to the SSI beneficiary. And in addition, things that are considered housing expenses, which are typically considered in-kind support and maintenance, can be paid from the ABLE account. This is huge because, if you're paying for housing expenses, receiving that from someone else, or you have a trust and it's paying housing expenses, that's considered in-kind support and maintenance and can reduce your SSI. But the ABLE account, there are specific rules around it, can make payments for housing. You just have to make sure that 30-day window is adhered to. And again, we would advise you to talk to a professional if you are using it for housing, because there are rules about when the payments are made and when the distribution comes out of the ABLE account. But this is a huge benefit to ABLE accounts, is that it can pay for housing expenses. And oftentimes that comes up for rent, but it can also be that you own a house and you've got property taxes or different utilities that need to be paid for. So this is a huge benefit of the ABLE account. So in Pennsylvania, how do you open up an ABLE account? You would go through the Pennsylvania Department of Treasury, and there's the website, www.paable.gov, and it is a simple process. It's a very user-friendly website, and you go on, you click on, and I think within 10 to 15 minutes, you could open your account and have an ABLE account ready to go. So Pennsylvania ABLE allows individuals to save in that account, just like as the federal accounts determine. But what happens when an individual passes away? So in Pennsylvania, when an individual who opens an account passes away, that amount is going to be distributed according to their estate. So if the individual had a will, it would go according to the will. If the individual did not have a will, in Pennsylvania, we have what's called an intestacy statute, And that is Pennsylvania essentially giving you a will under the statute. So if you're a child and you weren't married, the ABLE account would go to your parents. And I have had a few accounts now where the individual has passed away, and we have gone through that process of distributing according to the intestacy statute. Under federal law, if the beneficiary is receiving medical assistance, the state that provided the Medicaid is permitted to file a claim seeking repayment. We call this a payback clause from the ABLE account, up to the amount of the Medicaid provided during the life of the beneficiary that had the ABLE account. However, one of the big benefits in Pennsylvania is that the state agency responsible for administering Medicaid, DHS, the Department of Human Services, cannot file a claim against an ABLE account. So there is no payback provision in Pennsylvania. That's really important. However, if the individual who passes away with an ABLE account did receive long-term care Medicaid services, then DHS may seek repayment from the estate under the estate recovery program. Those are two different issues. So again, we stated it before, but another benefit to having a PA ABLE account and being a PA resident is that you get to deduct from your state income tax contributions to the Pennsylvania ABLE account. And it can be opened by an eligible individual with legal capacity to enter into contracts. If it's a minor, it could be by the parent. If you're incapacitated, it could be by your guardian, or if you have a power of attorney, the authorized individual can open that. Now, there are several new rules regarding authorized individuals, and I would refer you to our firm's website. We do have an article on exactly the authorized individuals and those new rules about who and the hierarchy of those authorized individuals. Now, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. My email is right on there, as well as our firm website, where there is information additionally on ABLE accounts. And thank you for allowing me to present to you today.